Hey everyone, it's Heather Nichols, and today I have a set of tags to share with you that are perfect for celebrating the red, white, and blue. The main star of this project is the Party in the USA Layering Stencil set. The stencils create 4 patriotic images that you can cut out with the coordinating dies. I'm also using just the red rubber stamp in the Fireworks Stamp and Stencil combo set. I'm using the largest die in the Tag Stacklets 3 die collection. For sentiments, I'm using the Mini Strips Patriotic stamp along with the Mini Strips Asymmetrical die. I'm using the Little Bits Star die. For ink colors, I'm using Cherry Pop, Mulled Wine, Blueberry, Blue Corn, Oyster, and Sugar Cube. For embossing, I'm using VersaMark ink, and then I also have my powder tool and silver embossing powder. For ink blending, I've got my bitty blender brushes, and for splatters, I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White Chocolate Truffle Liquid Watercolor and a water brush. To add sparkle, I'm using Happy Medium Silver Glitter, and I have my Nuvo Media Spatula. I've got burlap twine to tie to the top of my tags. And finally, for adhesives, I'm using foam squares, foam sticky strips, and multimedia matte. The Party in the USA Layering Stencil set has 3 stencils, and if you look in the lower right corner of the stencil, there's a 1, 2, or 3 at the end of the code, and that will tell you what order we recommend that you stencil the designs in. I'm stenciling my designs on a piece of 6x6 sugar cube cardstock, and I'm using pixie spray to hold my stencils in place. For the first layer, I'm using Cherry Pop ink with my bitty blender brush and applying that through the openings on the stencil. Once I have the Cherry Pop ink applied, I'm going to go back with Mulled Wine ink and add some shading. Once I finished my shading, I peeled off the stencil and then we'll move on to the next layer. For layer number 2, I'm starting off by applying Blueberry ink through the stencil. And then once I have that applied, I'll do some shading with Blue Corn ink. For layer number 3, first I am adding Oyster ink through the stencil with my bitty blender brush. I'm leaving the stencil in place and adding a layer of Happy Medium Silver Glitter. I'll apply this through the stencil with my Nuvo Media Spatula. Once I've got all of the openings of the stencil filled with the Happy Medium, I'll peel off that stencil layer, and you can see how pretty and glittery that is. And then you'll want to let that Happy Medium dry completely. Once everything was completely dry, I cut out the images with the coordinating dies. I cut out tag bases using the largest die from the Tag Stacklets 3 die collection from Toffee Cardstock. To add a background design to the tags, I'm using just the red rubber background stamp from the Fireworks Background Stamp and Stencil combo set. I set the stamp up in my MISTI, and then I used a little adhesive to hold the tag in place inside the MISTI. I inked the stamp up with Sugar Cube ink and then closed the lid of the MISTI to stamp the background design onto the tag. I repeated this to add backgrounds to the rest of my tags. I added splatters to the tag bases with Chocolate Truffle Liquid Watercolor. I added some of the watercolor to an acrylic block, picked it up with a water brush, and then tapped the brush on my fingers to splatter onto the tags. I added white splatters to the tag bases and the patriotic images using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. Again, I picked the ink up with my water brush and then tapped my water brush over my fingers to add the splatters. I'm embossing sentiments in silver using the Mini Strips Patriotic stamp onto Blue Corn and Cherry Pop cardstock. I set my cardstock and stamp up in my MISTI, and then I used my powder tool to condition my cardstock. I inked up the stamp with VersaMark ink and then closed the lid of the MISTI to stamp the sentiments onto the cardstock. I poured silver embossing powder over my stamped cardstock, and then I used my heat tool to melt the embossing powder until it was shiny. I buffed away the extra powder on the cardstock with a paper towel, and then I cut out all of the sentiments using the Mini Strips Asymmetrical die. To embellish the tags, I cut out lots of little stars with the Little Bits die from Silver Glitter cardstock. Now it's time to put these tags together, and I thought I'd let you just watch how I assembled these tags, just fast forwarded. I attached the patriotic images with foam squares. The Mini Strips Patriotic sentiments are attached with foam sticky strips, and the Silver Glitter stars are attached with multimedia matte. The final step is to add a length of burlap twine to the top of each tag. These tags are done and they're ready to attach to gifts for the 4th of July or any other event to celebrate the red, white, and blue. I hope you enjoyed learning how I created this set of patriotic tags, and I hope you learned something new. You can find the supplies that I used at the Tailored Expressions website at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time.